Good morning and happy Friday. It is Good Friday on a lot of different levels because today we have Frank Hilliker, who is the owner of Hilliker's Ranch Fresh Eggs in Lakeside, California. If you don't know where Lakeside is, it's in San Diego County. And he is really, really busy right now because it is the Friday before Easter and because of a lot of other things, which we're going to talk to him about in just a bit. But before we start talking to Frank, we're going to do our regular introductions of staff around the state. And today's question, because it is the Friday, Good Friday, right before Easter, today's question for everyone is, what is one of your kind of favorite Easter traditions? So I will start. Mary Kimball, Executive Director for the Center for Land-Based Learning, and I am in Winters. And one of my favorite traditions actually is when I was growing up, we always had farm fresh eggs that were brown eggs. And so, you know, if you've ever tried to dye a brown egg, it doesn't look very good. The colors are not very good. So my mom would go and she would actually buy store-bought eggs, is what we would call them, so that they would be white and that we could get the brilliant colors of Easter. And honestly, for many years, my parents were like, no, we're using our own eggs. And we had to mutiny. All the kids had to mutiny and say, no, we want the white ones. So that's a really fun tradition that we did for many, many years, is store-bought eggs so we could do good colors for our Easter eggs. All right, Dana, go for it.
All right, good morning. I'm Dana Baker, the Farms Leadership Coordinator in Tehama County, coming from Red Bluff. And one of my best Easter memories is kind of just getting together. It was always brunch with the family, an Easter egg hunt. I didn't have a ton of cousins, so it was mostly my sister and I, and so now that tradition is kind of being passed on with having little ones, which I think just makes Easter so fun. But the excitement of my Easter basket was always sitting out on the fireplace and waiting, full of, goodies, of course. And so, yeah, same. I honestly despise dyeing Easter eggs with my kiddos. I feel like I am not the fun craft mom, and it is always a nightmare. So my mother-in-law normally does that with my kiddos. This year, it's going to be this afternoon. We'll be dyeing Easter eggs when Daddy gets home from work because we're keeping our social distancing from my in-laws. So anyways, it'll be a little bit different year, but we're sure to make memories.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Joseph.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Montoya. I'm the Farms Leadership Coordinator for the Sacramento Valley. And my tradition has been to do a small Easter egg hunt in the backyard. I have a 3-year-old, and so we'll give her, put some coins in there, a few dollars, and some candy, of course. And actually, my mom still gives me a dark chocolate bunny every Easter. So it's like my favorite part.
Yeah, that would be my favorite part too. That's awesome. All right, Katie.
Good morning. My name is Katie Wortman from the Central Valley Farms Leadership Program Coordinator in Fresno, California. And my favorite part about Easter is getting together with my family. My mom is one of 5, and so there's 9 grandkids, and I'm the oldest. So just getting together, eating is a big thing, kind of just whatever is there, and just being together as a family.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. And we're missing Romy this morning because she's artificially inseminating goats. So Romy Wattenberger from Bakersfield is doing that this morning. So we'll move it over to Letty.
Good morning. My name is Letty Hernandez. I run the Farms program in Monterey and Santa Cruz counties. One of my favorite Easter memories or traditions that we used to do as kids, we would always get a new dress and some new shoes on Easter. And I remember we'd go to the Payless, which is not even a store anymore, and get our little white buckle shoes and
Oh, yes.
dress up really nice and take pictures out on the lawn. And so that's something I like to do with my kids, is get them dressed up and get them some nice little shoes and just have fun taking pictures and doing egg hunts.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, you guys. Great roundup of fun traditions and that you're continuing. So now it's time to introduce Frank. Frank Hilliker, who is a good friend of mine we were in the Ag Leadership Program together, class 32, way back starting in 2001 and going through 2003. And we have stayed great friends and colleagues since. And it has been just such an adventure to follow Frank's work as an owner operator of a egg production facility down in Lakeside, and especially in these last 3 weeks. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So Frank, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your farm, and kind of what if we were there, what would it look like right now?
All right. Good morning, everybody. Again, Frank Hilliker, President, CEO of Hilliker's Ranch Fresh Eggs. We are a small family farm. We did incorporate years ago for tax reasons, so we are a corporate farm, but still all family. We have approximately 25 to 30,000 layers. We're located in Lakeside, California, which is just to the east of San Diego. So about 20 minutes outside of downtown San Diego. We have white and brown leghorns, and just so you know, the white chickens lay white eggs, and our brown chickens lay brown eggs. Now that's not always the case, but in a commercial facility like ours, it typically is. We market our eggs to stores and restaurants throughout the county. We also, I'm a bigger distributor than I am a producer. I would need about 100,000 chickens to produce all the eggs that I sell. I bring eggs in from other farmers, and we market those as well and distribute them. Typically, our customers are restaurants and small grocery stores. With our own eggs, we sell our own eggs off the farm, as well as into stores like Sprouts or higher end grocery stores. Mm-hmm. Right now, if you're at our farm, you'd see a ton of rain. We typically, we're in Southern California. We're not used to getting rain, so this is kind of foreign to us, but it's raining really hard. And you would see some people running inside, or actually in and out of what we call the egg room. The egg room is where we process the eggs and pack them. That's also where we sell to the public. What we're doing right now, due to the COVID-19, is we're not letting folks into the egg room to buy their eggs. They have to drive up, they stay in their car, and we run out. And thank God we don't melt. And we run out in the rain, and we get their order, and then we run back in, get their eggs, and off they go. It's been very challenging as of late because 60% of my business is food service, and food service is all but shut down. I mean, I have a few restaurants and like delis limping along doing to-go orders, but for the most part, all that business is gone. But on the other side, retail has picked up at the stores that we do business with, as well as when the grocery stores became empty, we became like one of the only places that you could find eggs for a while in San Diego. At one point, around the 13th, 14th of March, and then the following week.
We lost your video, Frank.
What? Am I back? Something happened. I don't know.
Yes, there you go.
Anyway, hold on.
No, you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
What's happening?
You're good, Frank.
Chat meeting settings. Something happened. I don't know. Hold on, Mary, if you can hear me.
You're good, Frank. You're good.
Wait, is this it? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
You can hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
If you can hear me, that's great because I can't hear you. And I don't know why.
Okay.
All right.
Just
Thank
keep
you.
going.
So with the COVID-19, again, what we've had to do is we've been very fortunate that we were like the only place that had eggs, or one of the only places in San Diego that had eggs. We had anywhere from a mile to a 2-mile backup into our farm with people buying eggs. It was and we had to put limits. We were only selling people 1 flat or 1 dozen for a time. Now we don't have any limits for a while. We had to put limits on. We saw a lot of new faces. One thing that really helped us was our Facebook page. I guess I'm too old to do Instagram, and I don't do a whole lot of Twitter, but our Facebook page went from like 1,500 people to over 6,000 people in 3 weeks that like it. So that's pretty cool. And we got lots of messages. Oh, I'm so happy I found you. You're a blessing that you're here. We're going to start buying our eggs from you from now on. And what's been really cool is that in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've seen people multiple times, new faces multiple times. So it's good that they're coming back and they're holding to it. The interesting part is that the town I live in, Lakeside, pretty much everybody knows who we are. We have a big sign that says we sell retail. Maybe they don't know what that is, but so many people said, "Oh, I drive by here every day. I didn't know you sold eggs out of here." And I guess they didn't know what retail was. So that's where we're at. I'm going to see if I can find the audio on this. Just bear with me. I don't know why it's doing this. Hold on.
Sorry, I'm texting Frank right now, so I'm hoping that he sees these texts that I'm sending him. And obviously, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to try to send them to him because he's using his phone. Let's see. Maybe not.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
We can hear you.
All right, let me find that text message.
Sorry, guys.
Well, you gotta love technology.
Ah, there you are. Okay. All right. So perfect. Sorry about that. It's everything here is going a little haywire because of the weather. It's knocked my Wi-Fi network out right now. Again, when it rains here, nothing works. It's not like other parts of the country, they're used to it. So some of the things that we've done. So in 2008, in California, there was a proposition that was voted in called Proposition 2, which said that in California, you had to give the chickens more room. Now, nobody knew what that meant. What does more room mean? Does that mean we give them, they go from 65 square inches to 100 square inches? There was no definition. So a lot of farmers, myself included, we beat this around for a bit. And then what I decided to do in my caged operation was I researched cage-free. And I decided that, you know what? It doesn't say what more room is, but I know if I go cage-free, I'm good. So I've put over $1 million into my farm in the last 5 years, and taken out of 5 barns, I've taken 3 of them and converted them to cage-free. I have 2 more to go that are just sitting empty, but ran out of money. And
so it happens. That's a lot of money.
It is. And it's the plight of being small ag. So anyways, what we're doing is we're running with about, I have the capacity for about 30,000 birds. Once we're built out all 5 barns, we will be at about 50,000. So that's some chicken feed, let me tell you. So it was very interesting though, when Proposition 2 came through, they said that you had to give them the chickens more room by January 1st of 2015. So on December 31st of 2014, or maybe a couple days before that, some reporters came out from the LA Times. They did a story about us and about Proposition 2. And I found myself on the cover of the LA Times above the fold, if you know what that means. Those, guys, if you know what newspapers are, just in case.
That's right. Top part.
Stuff we used to,
Stuff we used to read every day. Yeah.
Exactly. Now we just get on our phones, right? So, anyways, I was above the fold, or I would have been on the front page of the internet article for the LA Times, and it started a slew of media calls. I was doing interviews from California to Washington, D.C., New York, out of the country. Everybody wanted to know, so what are you doing as a California egg farmer? How are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And do you think you did it right? So in the poultry industry, unfortunately, there's a lot of us that are in the poultry industry that are good people, but they seem to put their foot in their mouth when they talk. But myself and Mary went through this great ag leader training where we learned to deal with media. And I will say that ag leadership gave me the tools so I could deal with this onslaught of reporters for 6 months. Every week I was doing a different story, whether it was a magazine story, print story for a newspaper. I had several different news crews come out and do live stories, and finally died down. But what I decided to do by going cage free was I said, you know what? This law is flawed, because this law says give the chickens a little bit more room. And everybody's going to think that means cage free, but it doesn't say cage free. So when they found out that guys just made their cages a little bit bigger, they put a new law through called Proposition 12 last year. And that said that you have to be cage free. So I didn't want to throw good money after bad. I knew that would happen. This is California. I know how people think. So therefore I decided to go cage free, make that investment, because I didn't want to invest in a new cage system and make bigger cages and then rip it all out and then have to go cage free. So by 2022, the whole state will be cage free. Now we're not range free because we have range free coyotes.
Free range, you mean? Free range.
Or free range, range free,
but same kind of stuff. Thanks. So actually, Frank, that I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that was so neat about visiting your farm there is, and when we were in ag leadership, you used to talk about this all the time. You were completely surrounded pretty much by houses. And you have gone, because you used to be really out in a rural area when your dad started the operation in the 50s, or maybe it was your grandfather, I can't remember now. Yes. And obviously everything's grown in around you. So tell us about some of the things that you've had to deal with, shall we say, over the years, that because of that, and people moving in close by. And then actually I find it very interesting that now you're in this situation where, because people are close by, you now have hopefully a bunch more people who know about your farm and are buying from you. But tell us a little bit about some of those struggles that you've had along the way.
Right. So the farm started in 1942 on the corner of 52nd and Imperial in an area called Encanto, which is part of San Diego. That area now is known, unfortunately, as the Hood. But that's where we started. In the early 50s, we moved to Lakeside, where we're at now, and we haven't moved since. It was a dirt road out here, lots of open fields. We were surrounded by other egg farms, dairies, crop farms. And then what ended up happening was, as the land became more valuable, the farmers started, there's a saying here in San Diego that every farmer becomes a developer, and that's pretty much what happened to a lot of guys. We have $600,000-$700,000 homes 40 feet, 50 feet away from a chicken house. Now, these people knew we were there. They chose to live there. Right now, they don't like it, and it's because of all the rain we have. We have to tarp the manure. When we tarp our manure pit, it holds in all the gases and all the ammonia. And then when we untarp it, all that goes out and it smells really bad. You can smell us for about a mile away. Just yesterday, I got a bunch of texts from neighbors about how, we're not doing enough to contain the smell and deal with the manure, but there's not much I can do when it's weather like this. So I just kind of look at them and go, okay, all right, sorry, doing the best I can. But it's been challenging. While on the other hand, we have gotten some more customers out of it, and not everybody that lives next to us is angry with us, but there's always going to be a few. But it's been nice, it has been nice. And the way I look at it is that, ultimately, if they really wanted me to, I could just leave and develop that property, and then they would have more traffic, and I might have less of a headache, but I'm not sure what's better, But right now, currently, we're going to stay in the egg business.
It sounds like it. I mean, you've invested, as you said, it's a lot of money. It's a family operation, so it's mostly you and your sister, right? And your wife and your sister's husband. So it's really a family operation. And I wanted to also ask you, because one of the things that I loved when I visited you was the fact that you've had folks that have worked for you, worked for a very, very long time. And tell us a little bit about some of your longtime staff and how they really are kind of part of your family.
So we have, I have one employee that's been with us since 97, 98, somewhere around there. In fact, he's such a good employee that I bought he was living on the farm. He ended up getting married. He was living in a trailer on a farm, ended up getting married, having a baby. And the house across the street from the farm came up for sale, and I went ahead and bought it and put him and his wife and kids in there, get him out of the trailer that he was living in. It was a great place for a single guy, but not so much when you got a wife and a kid, Yes. And that would be Federico, and he's my number one guy here on the farm. I have other employees that have been with me 10, 15 years. We treat all of our employees like family. We like them all, except for the ones we don't. No, just joking. And it's always challenging when we have to hire when one of them moves on, because there's a ceiling here, unfortunately, and you can only afford to pay so much. I pay people anywhere starting out from minimum wage, and up to I've had employees making $60,000 to $80,000 a year. So while we are a farm, a small family farm, we do have some actually real paying jobs for people. The poultry industry, there's a lot of jobs right now for kids that come out of school with a poultry degree. They could pretty much go anywhere in the U.S. and start out at about 50 or 60 a year. And typically, if they've been in the industry for 10, 12 years, they're in the low six figures. So poultry industry needs people. And right now they're willing to pay top dollar to get people in there.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I should have asked you about the different kinds of opportunities involved in the poultry industry, because you're absolutely right. I think pretty much anything with livestock right now, there's a huge need across the country. And the poultry, especially poultry science, there's just less and less and less every year that are graduating with a poultry science degree. And so those folks that are graduating are really sought after. So thanks for bringing that up, for sure. Does anyone who's listening, I want to make sure anyone who's listening who might have a question for Frank or any of our coordinators, since we're getting closer, we're down to our last 5 minutes or so, and I don't want to hog all of Frank's time. So if anyone's got any questions, now would be the time to either put it in the chat or if one of the coordinators wants to ask, go for it. Anybody? I can keep going. Okay. All right, Frank. So you've talked a little bit about that you want to get up to 50,000. Did we lose him? Uh-oh. I think we might have lost him. Woo, well, I that might have.
He's
No,
connected.
there he is. There he is. He's back. Okay. I think you're on mute, Frank. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm on. Okay.
There we go. You're good. Okay. That's good.
Okay.
We can just listen to you. That's great. So you
Sorry about
talked a little bit about that your plan is to get up to 50,000 laying hens over the next how many years?
Well, it depends on paying off my debt, because right now I've still got about $400,000 worth of debt, and depending on how fast I pay it off, will
Sure.
I'm just not sure. I've got my last project I did, so I've been kind of doing it in phases. And the first phase I did was I built a new cooler and a dock, because I kind of needed to do that infrastructure. And then the next thing I did was I built the first cage-free house, which is paid off. Then I built the second cage-free house, which is paid off. Then I put in a new machine for processing and packing the eggs, and redid the egg processing room, and all that's paid off. So now what I'm working on is just paying off my last building that I did. But when I did the last building, I did a lot of other infrastructure things around the farm. I redid some of my manure area. I had to put in a egg collection system, so you can collect the eggs faster. I just did a lot of little things. So now that's what I'm trying to pay off. So that's where I'm at. Just depends. I'm hoping maybe 2 years I can start. I'll have enough handle on enough stuff that I'll be able to start doing stuff in about 2 years. That's my goal.
That's great. And I've told you this before, but I'm really proud of you, because I know that transition was a big one, and you guys really had to make some difficult decisions about whether or not to continue to shut down or to go cage free like you did. And I'm just really proud of you, Frank. We've got a couple of questions. And so Letty, do you want to unmute Mary Pat? There's a bunch of questions here, so let's do them one at a time. Let's do Mary Pat's question first.
All right.
And yep, Mary Pat, you can go ahead and ask your question to Frank Hilliker.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we can
okay.
hear you.
What would your advice be to the rising members of the next generation in the ag industry?
You got to make sure you love what you do. One thing that I always say is that being a farmer, I take a lot of pride in the fact that, farmers are 1.2, 1.3% of the population. If you look back at the term when you went from 1899 to 1900, that was 50% of the population. By World War II, they were 25% of the population, and now we're 1.2, 1.3%. And I take a lot of pride in being able to tell people that I produce food, and you really got to love what you do, and you got to enjoy it. And then all I can say is start with a lot of money, because if you want to make a little bit, you're going to need a lot.
That's if you want to become a farmer, but I think, and you've always been really involved too. I know, Frank, in 4-H and FFA, and you've helped a lot of young people kind of be mentors to them as they kind of move up and continue to gain experience. So thank you for all of your community efforts over the years. It's been great. And then let's see, there's another question. So we've got a couple, and I think these are probably some of our Sac High Dragons, because it says anonymous attendee. Letty, can you tell who those folks are, whether or not to unmute them?
No, I don't have them.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the question for you, Frank, and that because we can't tell who exactly it is. So the first question is, I love the city, but I'm interested in having a farm. And I'm not exactly sure what this means, but still being social. How do you balance that? Oh, maybe how do you balance having a farm and being social? Frank, you've had no problems with being social and being a farmer.
Nope, not at all. You know, right now during COVID, it's kind of a bummer, but you know, I just you just got to do time management. You know, I work really hard. I'll put in anywhere from on a slow day 8 hours to a busy day 18 hours a day at work, but I always make sure I have time to, you know, I'm my own boss. So I have season tickets to the San Diego Padres. So when there's baseball,
when there's baseball.
yes, I do. I do try to make those games. You know, I don't know. I mean, you just got to balance it. I don't know. I don't know how else to say that. And you just need to. You need to take that time. You definitely need to. I'm married. I make sure that I try not to work on Sundays. I go to work on Sundays if something's broken, and I need to fix it, because I typically have a little bit more knowledge on that than my guys do. So yeah, so if I get a call on Sunday morning, I just kind of roll my eyes and grab my boots and say, okay, I guess
sorry.
what did you break? You know, but I make sure I take I try to take one day. Doesn't mean I'm not working. I'm always working. I'll still call in every day. If on a Sunday, I'll still call in the morning. Hey, what's this like? How's this doing? I always make sure I check in. But I have a really good guy, my manager, who part of his contract is he has to work on Sundays. He gets a different day off. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, you just got to balance it. And I make sure I take that time with my wife, and Sundays are typically my day.
That's great. That's I think that's probably a good suggestion for all of us, whether we're farmers or not, right? Is balance.
Exactly.
So a couple more questions from actually some of our coordinators. Do you guys want to ask your questions to Frank?
Sure. Frank, I was wondering, how much more valuable are the cage-free eggs versus conventional caged eggs currently?
Well, that's really funny that you asked that, because what's really a bummer, well, not a bummer, when we first did it, we were getting a premium for all the cage-free eggs. But as more and more people converted, it became less and less. And when I did my aviary, when I first did my aviary, and somebody came out and interviewed me, I pointed to it and I said, this is the new commercial egg. These will not be special after a year or two. And so right now, we pretty much just get regular egg prices. The only way I can get a little bit of value is we do vegetarian fed, and then on my cartons. So I have two kinds of cartons. The same eggs go in both of them. I have cage-free Hilliker's Ranch Fresh Eggs carton, and then I have cage-free vegetarian fed, no hormones, no antibiotics, no steroids cartons. And for those eggs, because little secret, all chicken eggs, no antibiotics, no hormones, no steroids. You can put that on every egg carton, but I put that on one egg carton, and I try to get 50. I get about 50 cents a dozen more for those, just because it says that. So you got to market it. For example, farmers markets. We also have a part of the business that sells eggs at farmers markets. I have really nice labeled cartons. I have nice printed cartons. You know, you've probably seen them in the, how egg cartons look in the store, the nice labels, all nice and pretty. Well, at the farmers markets, I use a plain stock carton, and I put a sticker on there with the legalese, because if I have a printed carton, I'm too big. I'm too commercial. And it's the same egg. And so I just use a plain stock carton that says eggs, and then we have a sticker that has our name and address and the size of the eggs, and there you go. And we get $6 a dozen for those at farmers markets. But if I put it in a printed carton, I wouldn't sell any of them, because you're too corporate, you're too big.
I love that. That's a great. That's human nature is very very strange, but yeah. And then Katie, you had a question as well.
I did. Where is the furthest that you distribute your eggs? Is it only California, or can you go outside of California nationwide? And do you use the distributor? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, we are the distributor. We sell to other smaller distributors. We distribute within San Diego County only, but I deal with some guys that sell milk and they'll sell eggs, or some smaller food service guys, and they'll go as far as they kind of cover Southern California. But typically we distribute within the county only. It just, the trucking's so expensive. If you're taking eggs out of state, that means you're taking full semi loads, which you could, but that's just not me. There's other guys, there's bigger guys that do that. There's a farm by us that has 1.5 million chickens. Well, when I say by us, about 20 miles away, and they distribute all over the place. But we're little eggs, so we stay pretty local.
Yeah, so that's actually really, it's just amazing how many eggs are needed just even within a small, regional market like that. But I guess you think San Diego is I know they're in the top 10 largest cities in the United States. I always forget what number they are, but
yeah, the top 10.
Still a pretty big city. A lot of people. So one last question for you, Frank, and then we'll let you go. When you and I were on the phone a couple weeks, or maybe even a week ago, you were telling me, because you buy eggs from others, like you said, that 1 week a truckload of eggs was $43,000, and the next week it was $80,000. So you're seeing that price spike. What are you doing about your prices in order to try to absorb that? You told me a little bit about what you're trying to do to keep your prices very reasonable right now in this time. And
so what we're doing is, because you've had these price spikes, is the grocery stores, the stores that we deal with, they can look at the egg market just like I can. They can see that, okay, so the egg market that we follow is put out by the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, and that's if you Google egg market news, it'll take you right there, and that's the egg market that we follow. So stores can do that just as well, but the consumer doesn't. That comes into our farm, sometimes they have a hard time with it. Why are you going up and this and that? There's a couple reasons that we, even on the eggs that we produce, that we go up and we follow the market. Number one, if I have any of the people that come in and buy eggs, because we'll do will calls, so some stores will actually pick up, or restaurants will actually pick up. I cannot wholesale for more than I retail. I have to have my retail price higher. Or they'll come in, they'll go, I want that price over there. Well, you just, and that you've just really hurt yourself. But what we're doing is, for the folks that are coming in and buying eggs, is instead of selling 30 egg flats, we're selling 20 egg flats and we're selling a lot of 18 packs. And we're doing that to kind of bring the prices down to make it a little bit more reasonable. And I'm selling right now, I have a new flock of chickens laying eggs, and new flocks will lay your smalls and your mediums. Right now they're mostly into mediums, so I'm able to take all these medium eggs, and I'm selling them all out the door, about 10,000 of them eggs a day, and we're selling them just right out the door. And those I've kind of got marked down just a little bit, so it's a little more palatable for the consumer, because you've got to, there's not too many times when in agriculture when you can make money, but when you can, you have to. You know what I mean? It's a lot of times you're just going hand to mouth, and you're breaking even. And then sometimes when you can, for us, any extra money that we're making goes to pay off debt, or and that's our big thing is, I've got $400,000 worth of debt. So if in a month I can make an extra $10,000 or $12,000, you bet I'm going to try to do that, and then I'm going to use it to pay off debt. The sooner I get the debt paid off, the sooner I can start on the conversions for my next buildings. Yeah. And that's, if I was debt free and didn't have to, and if I had enough chickens for all the eggs that I sold, then I could reasonably maybe only take half of these price spikes and whatnot, but I couldn't afford to do that.
Right. That's right. Well, thank you, Frank. It has
Thank
been,
you.
we appreciate that you made this work on a
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very busy day, a Good Friday right before Easter, Egg Farmer. We
Awesome.
probably should have thought of a different day for you, but I think it's perfect. And sorry about all the rain and what it's
Hey.
causing.
You know what? We need it, so I'm not complaining. We do need it. And you know, I just left my mother-in-law down there, and my wife showed up. So they're selling the eggs. They're fine. I might owe my wife a little bit. I think
Yes, you probably will. You might have to buy her a nice bottle of wine for tonight.
Oh yeah, something. Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Frank. It's great to see you. And
good to see you. Thanks, guys.
We really appreciate it again. Have a great weekend with your family.
All right. Hey, and if anybody has any questions for me, just go onto our Facebook page, Hilliker's Ranch Fresh Eggs. Shoot me any more questions. I got no issues with that. I'll answer them best I can, or just give them my email. Okay, Mary?
Yeah, we'll do that, Frank. Thank you. There were a couple more questions, so we'll definitely do that.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.